So, have you seen the most divisive movie in ages yet? I did last night. Ant-Man and Wasp Quantumania apparently is one of the most divisive movies. I mean, stands at, oh man, it dropped even more. Unbelievable. It stands at a 48% on Rotten Tomatoes. Marvel's MCU's second rotten movie in a long since Eternals. They've only had two rotten movies. Everything else has gotten positive reviews at minimum in like the 70 something percent or 60%. But yeah, it's like the most, a lot of people either hate this or just like it or love it and all that. And where do I stand on that? So before I answer that, let me tell you what I think about the first two Ant-Man movies. I like the first Peyton Reed Ant-Man. In fact, I believe all three of them are Peyton Reed. I like the first Peyton Reed Ant-Man. It's a nice. I love a good heist film. It is a good heist film. It's not about like world-ending stakes like this one is, but it's just about save. I mean, there is world-ending implications where it goes on the first one, but it's ultimately just about a guy trying to do right by his daughter. Second one gets a little bit more a little wacky. I don't like the second one quite as much as the first one, but I very much enjoy it. And it leaves off leading into Endgame, which has one of the best finales in any movie period. So now we have Quantumania, and as always, I will not go into anything that isn't in the trailer. But if it has shown up in the trailer, be warned, I will address it because, yeah. And it's like, well, I don't want to know about. Don't tell me about that. I didn't watch the trailer. Then why are you watching a review for a movie? People are going to talk about the movie. I've never had that personally, but I've seen that happen before, where someone will get on someone's case in a review for spoiling something that was in a trailer. Mark did that for me with Batman vs Superman. And it's like when I mentioned that when Doomsday showed up, I'm like, that's in the trailer. Like, well, I didn't watch. Sorry, but it's in the trailer. It's out there. So I'm not out of my right to just talk about something that was in the trailer because it's not actually a spoiler. Anyway, so what did I think of Ant-Man Quantumania? I am gonna fall on the more minority side of this. I had a really good time with this movie. Is it perfect? Hell no. Does it have problems? Oh, absolutely. Will I address some of the problems? Of course. But on the whole, did I enjoy myself? Oh, 100% I enjoyed myself. I actually had more fun. Because I want to take my girlfriend to see it. She wanted to gauge my opinion on it before we went to see it. She wanted to know if it was a good time, if it was worth watching or not. And I would definitely take her to see this. Definitely. I would be willing to sit through this one again. I didn't sit through Black Panther 2 again for a second time. I sat through Thor twice. I sat through Doctor Strange twice. I believe it or not, only saw Shang-Chi and Spider-Man once in the theaters. But that's no commentary on them. That's just I didn't get out to see them a second time. But no, I fall into the camp of people who like this film. Now, I sail this with an asterisk. Now, this film is the biggest of the Ant-Mans. It very much is totally a very different movie than the other two Ant-Mans. It is very bombastic, very busy, very sci-fi heavy. This is their Star Wars, basically, in many ways. It's sci-fi heavy. It is building to other things. There are two post-credit scenes. Stay for both of them. Because both are actually pretty good post-credit scenes. It is building, and there are future consequences to what. I mean, we don't exactly know what the consequences are, but we know that there are consequences to some of the actions in the film. But I do not judge pretty much anyone who didn't like the movie, because I look at this, I watch this film, I'm like, I am digging the hell out of the majority of this film. But I can see why people are very mixed on this. I can see why there's a lot of people saying, I saw one guy I watch say that the MCU has lost its magic. I will admit the MCU has taken a hit ever since Endgame. I would just go to actually say ever since Far From Home. Far From Home was still a really good film. it's taken a hit since then. And one of the reasons is I think they were just putting out too much content. I think between the Disney Plus stuff and the movies, I think they were just stretching themselves too thin. It was hurting their quality a bit. And now we're going to be able to take a bit of a step back because they're going to be scaling back some of that. Yeah, the MCU has not been, it's not been in its peak form. I still love the MCU. I still look forward to every movie that comes out for the MCU. But I'd be lying if I said that all of the movies that have come out have been masterpieces. I love them. I do not. I would actually go so far as to say I'll have to redo my list now because I had made up my list since Black Panther 2, the ranking I have for the MCU movies, and I was planning to do a video before this came out, and I never got around to it. So I guess I'll have to now add this and 2023's and films to the list. But look, no movies for everyone, but this one I can definitely see why people are not gravitating towards it as much, or very split. I mean, it's 48%, but that's still more or less a 50-50 split when you talk about like majority of critics. By the way, let me actually I checked that, but I didn't actually get the audience score. What is the audience? Because the audience, let's be honest, the critic, when it comes to the box office, critic's not going to matter much. It's going to be what the audience is thinking. And the audience is 85%. Okay, the audience out of 1,000 plus verified on Rotten Tomatoes, 85% like it. That's a great number. That's a good number. That is a solid, you will at least get a okay amount of repeat viewings kind of number. I still haven't really talked about the movie that much. The movie is what you see in the trailer. Scott is popular now. He wrote a best-selling book, but he's got a strange relationship with his daughter. She's getting in trouble. She just wants to help people, and so she made this. Sorry, ear popped a little bit. She made this satellite. The clip's online, so there's no reveal. She made what basically is like a Hubble telescope for the quantum realm. I really don't understand why. I mean, setting the quantum realm is fine, but I still don't get why you needed to. He was there. Jesus, if I had this years ago, I could have found you in the quantum. I was like, that's great, but why do you need it now? There's a big problem with that. And I'll get into some of my more problems later on. But right now I want to talk about like general plot. And obviously they get pulled into the quantum realm. And they get pulled in really cool. Like they're only in the majority of this film is the quantum realm. Like 95% of this film is the quantum realm. And they get sucked in there and they get split up and they learn of this conqueror who obviously, as you saw from the trailer, Janet met and knew Kang the Conqueror and Jonathan Majors, and it's them trying to stop this madman from getting out because he will destroy God knows how much. And my hair looks weird. That's a little better. Actually, no, it's not. I need to be suave. Yeah, there we go. But and so yeah, that's the general plot. And look, I dig on sci. I am a sci-fi fantasy guy, and the world is so imaginative. The creature is so creative. Like cultures are even just kind of unique, and just it's very colorful. It's very vibrant. It's dark in some parts, but it's still very vibrant and colorful. I will say, leaning into maybe a bit of a negative than that, you can definitely see the volume stage in some scenes. Like there's a scene where they're standing like this open desert like plain. That's them on a volume stage. Some of the CGI is very good, but if like say a creature is in front of them, you see it in the trailer flying this like weird flying manta ray. That thing comes down in one scene, and I'm like, this is a really good effect if they weren't standing there. Because it's kind of like how in Avatar, when you have the humans who are not CGI against the other CGI, while it's really good looking overall, there's a little bit of contrast there, and you just kind of see the effect more than you see the immersion of the effect, I guess is what to say there. But still, the action sequences are a lot of fun, but they do get busy at points. There's one scene in particular where Scott and Cassie are in this camp with rebels or whatever, freedom fighters, and they get attacked by Kang forces. And when you can see what's going on, it's fun, it's fine. But because of I think the lighting is part of the problem in that scene. It's a darker scene. It gets really jumbled. But then you get into other scenes later on, like when they fight, like the finale, where you can see everything, and it looks pretty fun. It's pretty cool. Lang's going giant. The Kang's doing the things. It looks good. It's pretty fun. The science and technology is also really cool. The methodology for flying the ships is really interesting. Like the cultures and stuff. There's food that you see here that you're like, oh. So there's that. All the actors, I think, are doing a really solid job, honestly. Most of them, 90% of them. I think Scott's Paul Rudd's doing a good job. That's the best way to put this. And it's not really a spoiler. Cassie makes a comment at one point about, trying to do good. And she kind of like sort of calls him out, but not really. I'll get into that when I talk about a bit more about the negatives, about how he's not really doing anything to help people these days. It's his story. I think his story is a little bit about, he can't just sit on his ass when there's people that need helping, I guess that's what they're trying to get. He doesn't really have that much of arc except trying to protect his family. But we do get a lot of good, fun scenes with Hank. Evangeline Lilly she's probably the most underused in the movie, but she's still fine. Michelle Pfeiffer's gets a lot more screen time in this because she actually has the history with Kang. And that leads into Jonathan Majors, who, bar none, is the best damn actor and movie or thing in this movie. This is one of those Marvel movies where if they never used the character again, it would still be a damn good performance and a really intimidating villain. But the fact that we know we're getting Kang later down the road because of Kang Dynasty really makes me more excited to see what they do with him. He is menacing. He is cold. He is calm. He's collected. He's a genius. But what I loved more about anything else, he's still human. He's still nothing that's not in the trailer. Michelle Pfeiffer stole something from Kang. We know that much because he has Scott has to go get something, and I think they even said that she took something from me. She stole something from him. I can at least say what that is. That's not. Is it a spoiler? Yes, but is it a spoiler that ruins anything? No. She stole basically the power source for his reality hopping, multiverse hopping machine. That's what she stole. But she steals that from him. But he basically rebuild it together. And when she finds out who he is, the scene where they're talking about that, you legitimately see a man who was grateful for her help and just wanted to get her back to her, make good on his promise. He's a man of his word. There's a scene later on where, shocker, he's going to get his thing back, but, stuff happens. But when he goes to confront Scott about it, you still see a guy who's, trying to keep his word. He's not, while he's done terrible, monstrous things, he himself is not 100% a monster. There is a human being in there with a sense of honor, with a sense of, you keep your word, I'll keep mine. And he actually illustrates that point when he does something in the movie, and I'm not going to explain what it is. It is actually a really interesting scene that illustrated the concept of it, it illustrated the point of what I'm trying to make, where he basically, it's more or less, you going to give it to me, or am I going to have to take it? And it's revealed he could have taken it at any time. That's it. Okay, I guess that's what, he could have taken it at any time. But he was giving Scott the chance to be good on his word. And, granted, the way the scene plays out, you get the impression he might not have been good on his word. But it really was. He was giving Scott the chance to give it to him. And I'm like, this just makes him even more layered. And this is just this version of the character. We are going to see more in Kang Dynasty because the whole idea of that storyline is it's the dynasty. It's the Council of Kangs. It is literally hundreds, if not thousands, maybe even millions of different variants of this character. So it's going to be really interesting. And he's menacing. His combat scenes, you really get the idea of like, how the hell did these guys beat this guy? When he says, and this, I believe, this clip's online too. Says, are you an Avenger? Have I killed you before? Like, he's killed Avengers in different timelines. You're the one with the hammer. He's killed Thor in a timeline by that line. So yeah, it's like he really is menacing. Absolutely, he is. And there's a scene, and it's the hand-to-hand scene you see in the trailer where he's beating on Scott. Man, you can see where that Creed training for the movie Creed 3 came in. Like, Scott gets a couple good shots in, but he is completely outmatched. Kang is brutal as hell in that fight. And I mean, there's just a lot of fun to be. The Ant-Man humor is still there. It's definitely a lot sparser. They try to take this one a bit more seriously, but it's definitely there. And like I said, I like the 2 post-credit scenes. It's the type of movie. And my God, what is with my hair right now? There we go. Finally. So I really liked it. I love the Kang character. Kang character is great. Again, it's got a lot of good action. It's good effects, very good effects. And yeah, I overall really enjoyed the film. Now, there are a few things I either on the fence about or did not like or love. There are a couple plot points in the movie that are glaring plot holes. One is introduced very early on. When I saw it, I'm like, okay, how's this going to play a factor? And when it does, I'm like, wait. And I had to scale back because I immediately I asked the question, I'm like, wait, how did this work to begin with? You're not even explaining how this happened, and now this leads to something else. And I'm like, if you at least give me a sentence of explaining how this actually worked, I wouldn't care so much about this, but it is kind of a big plot hole. And then another plot hole near the end, I'm like, wait, so you can just do this now? What? But honestly, the biggest issues I have, and it really is just, these are 2 big issues, because I'm someone who can buy into the sci-fi lingo, because comic book logic. I'm just someone who can buy into that most times, 9 out of 10. One of the comic book things, though, I really wasn't a big fan of. Again, it's one of the things I just brought up. It's a plot element involving something that's a MacGuffin, not even a MacGuffin, a Deus Ex Machina in the film. But there are 2 characters in the film. Both are in the trailer. One is Cassie, and the other is MODOK. Now, MODOK is in the trailer, so that's not a spoiler that he's in there. For those of you who are wondering how they did MODOK, I'm not going to say who it is or how they did it, or how they created MODOK. I will say that in terms of the who, your first guess that you've been hearing probably for a while is probably the right one. I'm just going to leave it at that. Now, maybe you've been hearing a different thing for each of your guesses, and if you have, great. That means what I just said is completely wrong for you, and you'll be surprised. But most people who are probably thinking on it are probably getting the right guess. MODOK, see, MODOK's weird even by comic standards. And I didn't hate MODOK, but I watched the film, and this just felt like a filler, hey, look, we got MODOK. He didn't actually need to be there. As a matter of fact, if I think, and like I said, I didn't hate MODOK. MODOK was fine, kind of fun. There was the effect was odd as hell, but that's because it's MODOK. If you don't know what MODOK is, by the way, you just look up MODOK and you'll know. It's an acronym. Machine organism designed only for killing. Granted, as Scott, I think, says in the film, wouldn't that be MODOK? But yeah, that's what MODOK is. Or man-made organism, I should say. But when I really break it down, even though some of his scenes are fun and he's got a couple jokes and all that, when I really break it down, I'm like, you could have cut him out, maybe just had some sort of henchman that isn't this, or not even a henchman, just have them get caught in a different way and have him fighting whatever, and it would have worked out fine. I might even argue it might have flowed and felt a little less silly. Because MODOK is a silly character. He really is design-wise a silly character. But then the other issue I had was Cassie. And I will not go so far as to say I hate Cassie. Cassie, by the way, is played by Catherine Newton. It is made mention that they recasted her from, I think it was Endgame or whatever. Or recasted a little girl who played his daughter because she just wasn't old enough. I can't remember exactly the reason she was. The point being, she was recast. And look, I get where they're going with this character. She's young. She wants to do good. Like, there's people. Oh, they were protesting. It's like, you shrank a police car. It's like, what the hell? It's like, you have a suit? What? Yeah, you see that in the trailer. She has a suit. She really does kind of get portrayed as a fuck up. And I don't know. Like, there are scenes with Scott that I liked. But the fact is that you can only help so many people. That's it. She's kind of a bleeding heart a little bit. You can only help so many people at any given time. There's only so much you can do as one person, or as several people, or as a group. There's only so much you can do. And you can't help every person you meet. You just can't do that. And I think they're playing out the fact that she is young. She had to live on her own during that end game, during the blip. They do kind of, she does kind of make a jab at Scott, and she immediately regrets it. In that scene's on there, which she's like, yeah, I learned a lot in the last couple of years on my own. And it's like, oh, and he's like, ouch, okay. I don't know if I would have gone ouch, but I would have been like, I probably would have been like quiet and just like, So yeah, but she's kind of smiles getting out of the police station when she gets arrested and bailed out. She's a little, like, again, I don't understand the reason for making a quantum, like, they're studying the quantum, I'm sure, but I don't know. It just seems like a method of getting them in there, frankly. I don't know. Like, her wanting to help people is good. There's nothing wrong with wanting to help people. It's the fact that she can't seem to pick her battles right, I think, is the issue. And it makes her come off as a bit of a fuck up, as a bit of a screw up. And they do point out she screws up, and it's like, this is all my fault. And I'm like, yeah, a little bit. And I don't know. It just, the character is not very endeared to me. I will say, though, without spoiling too much, unlike with something like, first off, I don't think she's as bad as Kate Bishop was in Hawkeye. It took maybe going into episode 5 and 6 for me to actually kind of get behind Kate Bishop. Kate Bishop was annoying as hell in the first 4 episodes of Hawkeye. I really did not care for that character very much. Very full of herself, not very deservingly so. She was a good archer, but she was not that good. And she just was getting way in over her head. Cassie is at least smart, like legitimately smart. She helped design it. Like she helped design. She has her own suit, so she is capable of doing good things, and she does do good things, and she does come along a lot more later on in the film. But I don't know, something about her just wasn't clicking with the Cassie character very much. Nothing went wrong with the actress. I think the actress is just fine. I think, not even the way that she was directed. I think because it made her come off just a little smug sometimes, not too much smug. Like, particularly when she got out of jail, she came off a little smug. I'm like, ooh, you're coming off a little full of yourself right now. And it came off a little bleeding heart at points. But that's all said. My complaints are not with some plot holes and some character, not arcs, but character portrayals aside. I very much had a good time with this movie. I'd recommend it, but I don't know how everyone's tasting. This is going to be one of those films that's going to be very taste specific. This is very different. This is even more different than, like, say, a Guardians of the Galaxy. And Guardians of the Galaxy has a fucking talking raccoon and a giant tree guy. So, and a girl with Mantis, with a girl with antennas called Mantis, and a green woman, and a human, and a robotic Robo Girl, and Drax. So they fought a giant planet, And this is a bit more out there than those films. So, look, I am more, for any of my sci-fi lovers out there, I would say, and any of my like just straight pure comic enthusiasts, I would definitely say this is probably at least worth a watch. Whether or not you see it more than one time, that's up to you. But I would say at least give it a shot. I've heard the 3D is really good on this film. Watching the film, I could believe that. The film looks visually very beautiful. But anyway, I digress. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. And as always, you want us to review something, put in the comments below. Let us know, and we'll do a review of it at some point. I'm posing, so I can maybe do a thumbnail here. Until then, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. And I'll see you folks for the next one. Later.